Perfect.
I've never had that before, but I'm going to push continue. Absolutely.
Perfect. Good morning, you guys. We're going to go ahead and get started. This is being recorded, so we can go ahead and share it on YouTube and Facebook after Lisa finishes today. But I'm Emily. I'm the office assistant and development coordinator for Turning Point. And we are so excited that you guys are all here. Thanks for joining us. We have the chat box open as well as the Q&A section. So if you ever have any questions, I can definitely have Lisa answer those for you. Go ahead and type them in the Q&A box. But before I turn it over to Lisa, we can go ahead and talk about our socially responsible partners. Turning Point is a 501c3 nonprofit that depends on community support. So on this next slide, Lisa, these are some of our socially responsible partners that make all of our events possible without charge, and we're very grateful for all of them. So Lisa, if you're ready, I can go ahead and hand it over to you.
All right, well, we will go ahead and start. Welcome everybody. I think we've got, let's see, how many do we have? Anyway, oh, where did my PowerPoint go? Hold on. Can you see it? I changed my view. Hold on one second. What happened? What did I do? I hate when this happens. Do you see my PowerPoint?
I do not anymore. There we go.
I don't know what happened. Okay, all right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. But before we get started, I'm just going to throw out there, next July, next month of July, I haven't really picked a topic yet to discuss. So if you guys have suggestions, go ahead and you can throw them in the chat or the questions, or even after when you assess the program. But just let us know. I can talk about anything all day long, but I want to talk about what everybody else wants to hear and not what Lisa wants to talk about. These programs are for you, and this was one that was suggested by a patient previously. So we're going to go ahead and get started and just talking about planning, menu planning 101. Menu planning for a lot, it's daunting. It can be, but it doesn't have to be, and it doesn't have to be overcomplicated, and it doesn't have to be these elaborate gourmet meals. We're going to try to be as simplistic and try to do some steps of like how we can go about doing this in the easiest fashion. Okay, why isn't this not going? Hold on one second. Okay, so we have like really, I kind of broke it down into kind of 3 steps of what we need to do for easy menu planning. One, you need to make a menu. Okay, hello, that's what we're here for. And then after just planning the menu, you have to be ready for it. You have to stock your pantry. You have to, stock freezers with some things, with those essentials that you have on hand that you in a spur of the moment, if we didn't plan ahead, that we can just go ahead and grab those, off the shelf. And then the thing is about keeping that running grocery list, and that's kind of the key with a lot of the being successful. I know that we're all busy. We're all huge amount of busy, and menu planning sometimes, and I'm guilty of that as well. It's like it's 5 o'clock. I'm driving home from work, and I'm like, what are we gonna have for dinner tonight? And that's stressful. And then sometimes we throw things together that are not really the best or really thought out. So if we think about this, and we think about enough and far enough advance, then obviously the ease and the stress of meal planning or just even meal time is going to be decreased. So first of all, you want to make, you want to decide, ask yourself, like, do you want to make a weekly menu, or do you want to do it out, extend it for the month? I usually recommend people to start weekly. Obviously, that's 7 days. That's pretty much of a big chunk. But sometimes I will, we start off with just that with supper. But menu planning or meal planning is basically all 3 meals. We can plan all 3 meals. Breakfasts tend to be something that people do are habitual. Like I always have, or I always like to have my fruit and yogurt parfait as I'm driving in or when I get to work. I make those on Sunday, so that's kind of meal prepping. But then lunch, we think ahead. If we plan, I generally like people to take their lunches in, and that can be actually done the night before. We do not have to sit, every morning and try to get a breakfast ready. Because I don't know about you, but I kind of am flying out the door, and I'd rather just grab my breakfast already done and go. Same with my lunch. I don't like to get that ready in the morning. I prefer to eat in. I don't like to go out to restaurants or go eat out at lunchtime. It's just because, one, I'm out of control of what's being put in my food at that time. And two, I like to save, eating out to me is kind of a special occasion type thing or a weekend thing. I don't really like to eat out a lot during the week. So being ready and planning ahead or the night before is what we need to do. Okay. So, do you prefer to prep these meals ahead of time or, just at mealtime, supper? A lot of times some people will do that meal prep on Sunday nights. Like I mentioned breakfast parfait, and we can throw that at you in a little bit. But and then you want to pick a day to cook these meals, or if you want to cook them just that night, or cook them and freeze them. I know some people that are amazingly organized, and they will actually prepare meals like for the month. And those are things that they will, more of their proteins, more of their side dishes, and they'll freeze them and they'll just put them out. Incredibly organized. I admire people like that. I'm not out to that far yet, but I'm trying to get there. And then we need to consider like obviously any of those nutritional needs. Okay. I focused on today, what my focus is going to be on is following the guidelines from the American Institute for Cancer Research for cancer prevention and decreased recurrence. So those are my guidelines. We might have special needs. Obviously, we know, if there's gluten, if there's celiac disease, IBS, all those different types of things that will fall in. So your family, and you know what you need to pick. All right. So first of all, what we need to do is we need to sit down. We need to pick a day. It takes a little bit of time, but when you get into the habit of doing and going, you get a little bit better at it. Cookbooks are the best way to start. Any cookbook basically can be used. You can make any recipe, tailor it to what you like. So we start out with that. If it's not a cookbook, it doesn't have to necessarily be. The meals do not have to be elaborate, especially for super busy, but giving some idea. And what I usually like to start with is a meal planner. There's a whole gamut of meal planners out there. You can do the paper meal planners like these. I like to have I prefer the one on the left that says meal planners, that says breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That is easy. More so, sometimes people will just want to start, like I said, if you want to start with just one meal, that like the meal planner on the right, that could be just our dinner is what we're focusing on. I like to have those. I like to have them accessible for everybody, and like that sheet right there is a great thing to have. You can post it on your refrigerator, you can post it in a special place. But when family members will give you ideas, like someone like, hey, I'd like to have turkey meatloaf. Okay, well, perfect. What day do you want to have that? And then you can put it on the list. When you start there, then we trickle down and we can add in all those side dishes. There's also, if you guys do like Franklin Covey, they have a great organizing meal planner there. So that's where we start. So we have that out. All right. And then we pick and choose from there. So we have our meals that we're going to decide what we're going to have. And then, like I said, I will generally go by the New American Plate. All right. So on this slide, this is going to show us the difference between the New American Plate, which is the standard and the golden rule for the American Institute for Cancer Research. Okay. The myplate.gov is what everybody, that's nationwide. That was our go-to. So I generally like to hone in more on the American Plate. Okay. Because the American Plate is basically, it's all cancer related. It's cancer prevention. So with that, I like to focus on what they're doing, okay, rather than what the standard for the whole population is. I feel really that everybody should be doing the American Plate. We should all be thinking, in our mind about prevention of cancer and chronic diseases. And really, this is the way to do it. So if you look at the differences here, I mean, it's obvious. The 2/3 to 1/3 with the American Plate, and 2/3 or more is going to be your vegetables, going to be your fruit, your grains, your beans, that type of stuff. And then we have 1/3 or less for animal protein, if you choose to have that at all. Whereas if we look at like the standard for everybody with myplate.gov, you know, the protein is a big part of that, like is a bigger part. They're getting better at you know, one part, gosh, back in the day, you know, we would have protein being a larger portion. We would think about our protein sources first, fill up our plate with protein and then trickle in the rest. So we're actually going backwards. We're going to fill in with all the good, the 2/3 and then protein. We're going to start with protein because protein is where, when we meal plan, that's where we can plan all the other side dishes to go along with that. So I want you to think about that 2/3, you know, 2/3 to 1/3. The principle is it's not really a diet, rather than like a simple, like kind of fun way they call it, of looking at eating every day to help you make your meals more plant focused. And that's really the end of the day. That's where we should all try to be, a little bit more reliant on plants, less reliant on the meats, the animal proteins. Not to say that we can't do that, but that does not need to be the focus of our plate. Okay, so 2/3 of a plate, and this is where we're going to, when we're meal planning, we're going to think about this. We're going to think about 2/3 or more of our plate to be filled up with these kind of menu items. Okay, and you see the gamut of here. You see your fruits, you see your vegetables, you see seeds like chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, flax seeds, and then your nuts and your nuts and seeds like that. So almonds, walnuts, cashews, any type of nut, peanut, hazelnut, those fit in there. And then you have your whole grains. So you'll see you have your whole grain pastas, you have whole grains like quinoa, you have whole grains like your brown rice. And so we're gonna manipulate those and put those in with into our plate. Then we have 1/3 or less of our plate should be, and there is room for if you want to be vegan or vegetarian or pescatarian, however you want to do it, but there is room. They do allow that 1/3 of your plate to come from an animal source. So those proteins, those animal source proteins are, you know, you have your chicken, you have your fish or seafood, you have eggs, dairy. You do have red meat on there, and the guideline for red meat consumption, if at all, the red meat consumption should stay less than 18 ounces of cooked red meat per week. That is what the guideline from the American Institute for Cancer Research is saying. So if we want it, there is a guideline for that. So, you know, I have a lot of people that enjoy red meat, and that's fine. 18 ounces, I think, is very generous, but that's still fits in the guideline of healthy eating and cancer prevention. Okay, so this is just a slide that we like, you know, in the beginning when they started campaigning, the American Institute for Cancer Research, you know, for this healthier plate. This just shows you the progression of the plate. You know, this plate in 2020, last year, that's the plate that we're looking for in menu planning. All right. I feel, you know, during the week, since we are incredibly busy, that it needs to be very simple. And simple like this is they have chicken breasts, they have the vegetables, and they have the grains. And that's how we go about with the menu planning. So I like to focus on, you know, protein first. So we look at that 1/3 of the plate. And on here, this one, we show you the chicken. And then you have all the accompaniments with that. During the week, I don't get elaborate or very detailed with recipes. I'm not to the point. I'm not, but a lot of people are. Like on Sunday night, we can meal prep and plan those other side dishes ahead. I generally like to trickle in and look at what I do day by day each week. So I will take out the menu and I will plan Monday through Friday. That's the most focus because Monday through Friday we are busy working, and so I feel that needs to be more of the attention needs to be focused on that to keep that menu tight. So the proteins are where we start. So I will put in, you know, I'll think about, okay, I said meatloaf, turkey meatloaf. I said that because I made that last night for everyone. That was a request. So I put that down, and then I think of things that can accompany that. So first, I will start with the protein. So I'll do like turkey meatloaf, I said. I did chicken breast. One night this week I did make salmon, so we did salmon. We can do a very lean pork. The red meat, like I said, if we keep it at the standard. Red pork is considered a red meat. I know that they campaigned and called it the other white meat, but it's just white in color. It's not, it's still a red meat. So picking 5. I also will pick one night a week. That's I call it like a meatless Monday, that we don't do any source of animal protein. So it's more of the grain. So I will pick the night I will pick more of like quinoa, gives you some good protein. All your legumes, that can be focused on that could be the focus of the meal instead of the protein. So even things like back when it was cooler out, I would do on Monday, I would do a meatless chili and focus mostly on doing the beans in there. Sometimes I would throw in some of the meat alternatives like the meat crumbles, but mostly I would focus on doing a meatless meal. There's a kale soup that has great beans in it, like the white kidney beans, cannellini beans. So that's what I focus on. I pick Monday because of meatless Monday. That I just tell that to all my patients, just pick one day. So I do that first. All right. And then I look at what we need to go with that. So I always like to have a fruit and a vegetable with every meal. Okay. So we're coming into summer. All these wonderful fruits are coming into season. And so we have a better option these days. In the winter months when things aren't, you know, as amazing, I will sometimes rely on a like a fruit cup with that's in its own juices. I don't really, you don't no heavy syrup, but or frozen, and then I generally will make more, put those in things like my yogurt parfaits in the morning. I will put frozen blueberries or frozen strawberries instead of the fresh, because they're just outrageously expensive during this off seasons, and then two, it's just easier to keep a large quantity of those in my freezer. So that's what we focus on. Then with the fruits and or vegetables, I focus on color. So I try to get a different color. I try to rotate out colors or get a gamut of different colors in all the time. So, with, like, for instance, with the salmon, I always like to have with salmon, I think that what goes well, I like steamed broccoli, and then I like a sweet potato, and that is more of my carbohydrate type of vegetable, but that is, you have green, and then you have that orange, and then a fruit that I picked with it, this past time, it was honeydew melon because that was in season. And it's beautiful. Okay, so that's kind of balancing everything out. I do like to put in a good type of a carbohydrate, a complex carbohydrate. And that can be where we talk about the quinoa, we talk about brown rice. Some recipes I use white rice. It doesn't matter as long as I have, we don't just do all white rice, or, you don't have to do only whole grains and all the time. In my cupboard, I have both brown rice and white rice, and whatever the recipe, whatever I'm making that day will warrant, which I'm going to use. Okay, so we're going to focus on those things. So we have our protein, we have a vegetable, and we have the fruit, and then our carbohydrate, or our starches at that meal. So we need to stock the freezer with those essentials. So what do we do? The vegetables, and one thing, let me back up. One thing that I do, and I try, it helps tremendously, is that shopping list. But what I do with that is I have tried to become better at planning ahead. And with that, what you do is, if you make that, I put in one trip to the grocery store a week. This is something that, I needed to work on. I was seemed like I was going to the grocery store every 3 or 4 times a week just to pick up like something for dinner. But when you plan ahead, you really only need to do it one time. And these days with COVID, these grocery stores are having pickup. You can order online, and just stop on your way home and pick it up rather than having to go through the grocery store. great service, a fantastic service. The only thing I get a little leery on is like letting them pick out my vegetables or picking out my fruit. I'm pretty particular about that. So it all depends on what it is that I'm having them pick out. I might just order ahead everything else and then go in and pick out what I want with the vegetables and fruit. Still, it saves me a whole heck of a lot of time. In all actuality, it saves a lot of money too, because you're sticking with what's on your list rather than like, oh, hey, this looks good, or oh, hey, that looks good, or maybe I should have that. So just a couple things with your vegetables. We always tell people like, oh, I'm going to stay away from canned, the canned fruits, canned vegetables, but some of them, like your diced tomatoes, and though this is not really a vegetable, it's a legume, but all your dried beans, like your black beans or the cannelli beans, like I said, or kidney beans, all those are fantastic to have in a can at home waiting to be used. Okay. In fact, the diced and crushed the tomatoes, the canned tomatoes, have more of that lycopene, which is that phytonutrient, especially for men, but it's a great source. It has more lycopene in it. So having those on hand are always a great idea. Even, like with a can, I always have black beans at home canned. And with those, you always, the biggest thing about canning is that we feel that loses a lot of the nutrition, and it does for like the green beans and stuff. But for all your baked beans and things or the black beans, they retain a lot of their nutrition, a lot of their fiber and the protein, and the magnesium. So, and the sodium really is not really within that bean or the legume. It's mostly in the liquid. So if we take those type of things and we drain them before we use them, they're perfect and fine. The sauces or the tomatoes, I would highly recommend that we get a low sodium or no salt added with those. It's always good to have on hand your favorite spaghetti sauce if you don't want to make it. It's really easy to make, but these are things that will make your week, during your week, midweek, really easy. So those are, and I always want people to look for those that don't have a whole lot of, that's where we have a lot of the added sugar is in things like your prepared sauces. So spaghetti sauce, look at that one. That one is something that I always have my patients look at the added sugar. Salt, of course, we know that it's in there, but sugar, the hidden sugar is in a lot of those. So look at the label, make sure that there's no added sugar in those, but those are great to keep on hand as well. Dried mushrooms, believe that one or not, are really awesome to have on hand. And then what you can do is you can add those to your meal, or add those to broths, or add those to soups. And that adds a whole nother layer of nutrition. And then obviously any kind of frozen vegetable without any sauce. Okay.
Lisa,
I will
really
go.
quick, you had a
Yeah.
question, and Donna wanted to know where you get those dried mushrooms while you're talking about them.
Oh, they're at different places at different locations in different grocery stores. You can get them in the those little bins so some places have the bins and you can pull them out. You can actually get them in the fruit and vegetable and the produce section. Just ask them. They can also be I have seen them in the like the herb where you buy all the herbs as well.
Oh, good.
So those are great. All those dry things are really great, and you can actually reconstitute them. You put them in a little bit of hot water, and then they'll fluff back up. But those are really good. They add a lot of texture. They're filler, and they some of them it can be meatier, like like a steak. Like big portobellos are great, but they're not dried. But the dried ones are really cool to have on hand. Okay. Was there another question? I saw another.
Thank you.
Is that
that's it.
That's it? Okay. All right. So your fruit's the same thing. You can. We know the fresh fruits. We absolutely know that. And again, this is the season. And I tell when you're in season, get them all fresh. Dried, you can do dried stuff, dried cranberries, dried raisins, dried cherries, but you really want to make sure that they're the unsweetened version of everything. These things are loaded with vitamins, but they can also be loaded with a lot of added sugar. So read the label, be very thorough with those, but those are great things to have on hand to add to, like you can add them to salads. You can add them to some rice. I know that sounds weird, but like some apricot, you can add it to risotto. We can add it to those different types of things. Those are always good to have on hand because they're shelf stable. They stay on the shelf for a while. So fruits outside the fresh ones, the dry ones are perfect. Okay. Dairy, I put this in here because we can have these things on hand in a pinch. So dried milk, the dried milk is a great way to add bump extra protein. If we have some of you that are undergoing any type of treatment, still that dried fruit is great just to have on hand. You can make twice rich milk with that. You can add that to, actually some people add it to coffee, just to add a little extra nutrition. But that's, dried milk is always a good thing. If you're not a big, huge milk drinker per se, and you just use it in recipes, dry milk is the way to go because it's more cost effective. Then we have the box milks. If you've seen them, they come in quarts, I think quarts, right? Or individual. They can be, they're shelf stable. They can be on the box. They can be in the aisle. Like some of the milk alternatives, like, almond milk and rice milk, they actually are not in the refrigerated section. They can be in a box. And some of the other milks, I have found little individual serving sizes of like little of chocolate milks that are good for lunches, but they're not in the refrigerated section. But as long, obviously we're going to refrigerate them before we drink them, just because they taste better cold, but they're shelf stable. And then always having like that evaporated milk, that can be substituted for liquid milk in a lot of recipes. So those are things to keep on hand. We don't need a lot of them, just to keep there, so we can just throw them in if we need them on the spur of the moment. And then our protein sources, like I said, mentioned before, like stocking up on the legumes. So the cannelli beans, garbanzo beans are fantastic. Garbanzo beans are one that I like to have. I will buy them in bulk at like Sam's or Costco and have cans of them in bulk, because to me, those, I will take them, I will drain them, I'll rinse them, and those will be something that I can throw in my lunch, either throw them onto a salad, or I like to snack on them cold. I know it sounds crazy, but those are, to me, that's a good texture. They can also be dried in the oven and put on salads. So, or crunch as a crunch as you're, tossed in a salad. So they are a great source of protein. I mentioned that earlier. The fiber, we can use these things in the place of our meat protein. So there's, keeping that Meatless Monday going. You can also buy, canned meats like your canned tuna, anchovies, like sardines, if you want to keep those. The key with that is I always tell people to not in the heavy oil. Not that oil, they usually use a canola oil. They don't soak them in olive oil, but the oil is just going to add more calories to it. So I shun away from that. And then we can add, if we want to add oils, we can. So be a little bit cautious of how you go about doing that. And then your grains. This is a good one to have on hand all the time because they are so shelf stable. Oatmeal, obviously, and oatmeal can be added to other things. You can add oatmeal. Some people like to do smoothies in the morning, and these are good carbohydrates. People tend to be afraid of carbohydrates or these types of things just because of this low carb dieting that's been out there. But carbohydrates are a staple. They should be a staple. 50% of what we consume should come from a carbohydrate source. So grains are part of that carbohydrate. We have our grains, fruit provides us with that carbohydrate, and then your milk provides us with carbs. But grains are where we get the bulk and the majority of our the carbohydrates. So oatmeal, buckwheat is another good one. We don't often think of buckwheat. Whole grain cereals. We can try all like those ancient grains like barley, farro, quinoa. Those can be staples. This can be side dishes. Those can be staples. Those types of things like quinoa is so versatile, incredibly versatile. Million recipes out there for quinoa. There's great black beans and quinoa. There's has a more of a Mexican type of flair in that. There's a million and one ways to do those different grains. And I would try that. I ask people if you've tried quinoa before, and they're like, I don't like it, but how did you make it, or what did you do to it? Quinoa needs the flavor of other things in it. Sometimes I'll just steep it with some low sodium chicken broth and then add I can add diced anything in a diced. I usually use the colored peppers and throw that in to get the color. So, and then I always say have a variety of the rice on hand. So you can do the long grain, short grain, basmati or brown rice. Like I said, all of those are great to have. Some recipes are warranted to have white rice, and that's acceptable and fine, as long as we balance up the rest of the meal. And then we have our other pastas, and in any of the pastas, as long as, we can do that. They don't always have to be like the whole grain pasta. Like I said, certain recipes will require, but, when we do that, when we have, say we have spaghetti for the family, and that could be spaghetti night, that could be actually a meatless night. You know, we need to have other things with that. If we have a white pasta, we need to have other things with it that are more nutritionally sound. So that is when it's really important to have your vegetables. And that's really important when we bulk up on a lot of those vegetables and colorful vegetables. Maybe have a variety of 2 or 3 different vegetables added. Um, you can do a spaghetti with even a prepared marinara sauce, and then take and saute a whole bunch of different vegetables, or even if they're not sauteed, they can be roasted, and then throw that all together just to make, one big happy meal. But so be creative when it comes to just adding those different grains in. Okay. All right. What the key is to become, to stay more organized when we're planning these things. So usually I have the menu ideas. I have that down. As I come up with menu ideas, I think about what I have on hand, like any of those staples that I have on hand. And then from there, I formulate the shopping list. Okay. You can go straight up. I've been doing a lot of shopping online. So easy. You can start, you can even actually have your app open. They have apps now, like the grocery store where I am has their app open, and you just keep saving it. And as you're thinking of things, that's where you can put your shopping list. But I usually have a shopping list on the counter where everybody has access to it. It can be on the refrigerator, and that's where everybody can help keep track. And that's what I encourage everyone. And it's just a learning process for everybody. If you're starting this new, is to add that to the shopping list. I used to go to the store, and I would have my 3 kids would be like texting me, I need this and that. I was running all over the store like a mad woman. So I've kind of trained them in now, like if it's not on the shopping list, it's not going to come home. It will not be home at that point. You'll have to wait for next week. So it's just training everybody and getting them used to that. So we go from that. They have a grocery store list. You can do it that way. And you can put, if you love to go into the grocery store and shop for your own stuff, they will do it. You can do it by, I usually recommend doing it obviously by sections of the store, your produce, your dairy, your meat, and basically we all kind of do that in a way when we're going, but just keeping it accessible. I don't feel that mom should be the only one that is making the menus or making the grocery list. We have enough. We're all out there, especially, busy moms with jobs, and busy moms with multiple children. So, and then getting everybody to pitch in. And 2, that just gives everybody, they feel like they're part of the process rather than just being, here's your meal and this is what we're going to have. So, so doing that. So with that shopping list. And then sometimes we like to, this is just one idea of meal prepping, and that's a whole different ball game, a whole different gamut. And that is what this is. We have, we can meal prep and plan it for a week. And I do this, don't do this with my lunches per se. I do this with my breakfast, like I had mentioned, as far as with like doing the yogurt parfait. And basically what that is, and I think I've said this over multiple lectures, but it is just, I take, fruit, I take glass jars that I recycle actually, glass jars. at the bottom of that, I put in my fruit. Okay. And like I said, during the winter months, I rely a lot on frozen fruit. So I will get frozen blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, and I put that at the bottom. Then I take a yogurt. I take a Greek non-fat, um, unflavored, nothing, just a plain yogurt. Then I put that on top. I will at that point take either, it depends on the berry, I will take a couple of drops of honey, not a lot, or maple syrup possibly, put that on, and then I will take about 2 teaspoons, almost a tablespoon of chia seeds and throw that on top of it. And then I put the lids on and I put that in the refrigerator. In the morning, I take it, I stir that up, and then I will grab some nuts, walnuts, almonds, any of it, and throw that on. And that's my breakfast. And, I switch out obviously the different fruits. I will switch out different nuts. But if we look at that meal and our meals, all of our meals, if we look at that, are we covering our bases? So what do we need at our meal? Breakfast, I'm not going to have you eat your vegetables, but what did we say? We needed our protein. And we're getting an animal source protein because the yogurt does come from, it is dairy. It does come from a cow. So we're getting our protein. We're getting our fruit, we try to get the different colorful fruits in there. During the summer months, try different things. And then, we have that layer of our chia seeds, which our chia seeds are anti-inflammatories. They're really high in omega-3. So that adds it. And then our nuts are going to add more protein. They're going to add more fiber and more bulk. So it's a pretty complete breakfast all wrapped up into one. So we can do it that way. We can meal prep our breakfast by doing the overnight oats. There's a lot of recipes for the crock pot to put oatmeal in. And I've done that before. I've made that on Sunday and prepped for my breakfast. I think I tend to have more issues with breakfast, getting out of the house, and then in the back end in the evening when we're coming home from work. So we can meal prep for that. And our evening meals can be prepped like this. A lot of times I do have patients that are doing meal prep this way if they have a smaller family, that they are meal prepping and they're not putting individual, but what they're doing is putting it all into one large, like they do cookie sheets, and on that cookie sheet, I have some people that will do their proteins and put that in like a baggie or a little, and then they'll have like their side dishes. So some of the quinoa recipes, if we look at the quinoa or farro, they are things that do fabulously well, making a bunch of them on Sunday night and then divvying that out. I don't like to have the same thing for supper every single night, but I don't mind having, like, if I had salmon tonight with quinoa, I don't mind taking that quinoa and flipping it and having it with maybe my meatloaf that I had last night, or maybe having it with on a meatless day. So using it multiple times throughout the week is perfect and fine if you make a huge batch of it. So, and then my lunch is what I usually recommend is making enough at your mealtime that you can have leftover for the next day if you are a leftover eater. I have one child that doesn't like leftovers, which is, I love them. Sometimes food is better the next day. So become creative that way. And I prefer, if they're meals, I tend to like to have things in glass rather than the plastic, like up in the left-hand corner. Especially if we're going to reheat those in the microwave. I prefer, even though they say they're microwavably safe, I prefer to microwave my reheat things in glass. Okay. And then let's go to, well, all right, so let's hit this because we're coming to the end of I didn't realize, I thought I had one more slide. So with this, there are a lot of apps. Okay, we have our phones.
Lisa, I was
They're
gonna
always on our
ask you
phone.
real quick before you
Oh, yeah.
wrap this up. I was gonna say, go back a few, or not go back, but about a few slides back, the legume pastas you were talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Where can you get those? Are those at customary grocery stores or specialty health foods?
Oh, that's an excellent question. And I'm sorry, they are all over the place now. I have actually got them I'm in Texas, so the grocery store here is HEB. So I've got them there. They are at Publix. I've seen them and at Kroger, and they will have them in the pasta aisle. So you just and they're not generally at eyes length. They have to, sometimes they're down below or maybe up above, but they're all over. I know that Costco had amazing, it was amazing black bean pasta. And it didn't taste like black bean. It was amazing. There's also, they also had, oh, it was a green one. Edamame pasta, very good. Very good. They have quinoa pasta, but the legume pastas I've seen lentil pasta. So they're all right there. So a very good question. Those can be found all over the place now. And they're good. They're very good. They're very good. And the great thing about those is that they give you that extra fiber. And they're not, see, to me, like back in the day when we started these whole wheat pastas, I'm not a big fan. I've never been a big fan of whole wheat pasta. I don't like the flavor. It's just comfort. Pasta is a comfort food to me, and I don't like to mess with the comfort food. So that's why I said, if we have regular pasta, which if you came to my house, I would give you regular white pasta, but I would make sure we're going to have a salad with that. I would make sure your fruits are covered. I'd make sure that you would get something, you would get it all. And that's the way to be. I mean, I remember growing up, we had pasta a lot because there's a lot of us, and we would have spaghetti and garlic bread, and that's it. So there's nothing else, that was our meal, and that was acceptable. And that is, but I call that, like, that is our part. That's our small part of our plate, and the rest should still be filled up with all the yummy stuff. So excellent question. Excellent. Okay. So these apps, there's 1,000,001 apps on the phone. A lot of these, not a lot, some of them you just look, some of them will have two versions. Some will have a free version, and then you can pay extra to get all these extra bells and whistles. Some of them will actually give you their recipe bank. I think the mealtime one, you can put in there like your food preferences. So say you're allergic, or you're gluten-free, or say that you're no lactose. You put in all your little food preferences, and then it will actually dig into their base of their recipe base and spit out all their recipes with the menus, with the recipes, and where to plug them in. So you just have to play with some of these. I think the Plan to Eat, I looked at that one. That one was very interesting to me, visually appealing, and that has to be and very easy to navigate. But a lot of these, you just please read up front, because sometimes it could be a small charge of like a one-time charge of $5.99. And then I've seen, I think it was the Plant Joy, that it's like, I think it's $100 a year. And for $100 a year, I feel they need to come and make my meal for me. But anyway, and it could be a very good resource. I don't pay a lot for the apps out there because there are so many free ones. So, and you can search, menu planning. You can search menu planning for weight loss. I mean, there's a 1,000,001. These are just a couple of them that I saw that were out there. Okay, and really at the end of the day, I mean, if you want to go into the depths of the grocery store, I feel like you need to be prepared, and try not to wing it. I mean, I used to do that as well, just like go in there and, okay, we'll have that one day, or just fill up. But it's so much easier, I have found, that I just having that, taking not even an hour out of a day, out of a Saturday, a Friday, or it could be in the evening. Since we're planning our meals, then we have more time in the evening, and that could be it. Also, what I've done is I will, on a menu, I have a calendar, not here, but I have a calendar, and I'll kind of just write in or keep my sheets, my menu sheets. And then if I try something new, say a recipe, I will critique it, I will write it, and then I will take that and I will throw it into a calendar, like for next month. And then you can rotate that out. So if I tried a new recipe and everybody loved it, then I will put that in, I'll put that in for next month. And then I'll rotate that out on a monthly basis, or by, every other month. Or if it was really great, then, people request more often, heck, we can do it every other week. The kale soup recipe that I have, that is like a filler, even in this heat. I have some of my family that are like, "Oh, can you make the kale soup?" Because it's so satisfying, and it's it's filling. And I can share that recipe if you guys want it. I can go ahead and I mean I won't you don't need to jot it down now, but it's so very easy and it's so very good for you. And it can be you can add anything into it. In all actuality, what it is, it's just it's an onion or half an onion sauteed a little bit in a little bit of olive oil with garlic, a little bit of garlic. I maybe it all depends. This is like grandmother's recipe, but I usually will throw in like 1 or 2 cloves, depending on how large. I saute that a little bit, and then I take my kale. I found that it's better if I saute the kale down a little bit. I rinse the kale. I take off all the hard stalks of it. I throw that in there, saute it down a little bit, and then legitimately, it is a can of diced tomatoes, and I get those with no sodium. It's 2 cans of diced tomatoes, and it's 2 cans of the cannellini. I always say it wrong. So those beans, the white kidney beans, 2 cans of those rinsed and drained and rinsed. And then I throw in chicken broth or chicken stock. And I sometimes will make it or do the low sodium version. And I throw in the box, 3 boxes of that, which is, are those quarts? 3 of those, and then a season. I don't put any salt in mine. You can throw in a little pepper, but the key is doing Italian seasoning, and it's a teaspoon to a tablespoon. It's all basically what you like. And then sometimes I will chop up cabbage and saute that in there. It's just, and you make it what you want. It's so easy and it lasts. It's a great, like, even when you come home and you're starving and before you are cooking, that is something that's good. That is a great one to do to meal prep for the week if we want to have that last, and it freezes very well. So there you have it. It's a recipe, but not really a strict recipe. It's just something that you can have on hand. So
really good. Maybe we
yeah, go
could
ahead.
provide that recipe for everyone. We could send it out to all the participants if y'all be interested.
Yeah, I can do that. I can do that. All right, so now we're to the point where any questions that we may have. Let's see what these.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, Kimberly would love to have that recipe. So if you want to
Okay.
share it with me,
Okay, I will.
out to all the participants today.
Oops, wait. I wanted to go back. Do we have any question or any other? No questions or comments?
If you all have any questions,
basically it's okay if we don't, that just the take home message is just don't overcomplicate things. Just don't. People stress out about it, and when I think of making a meal, I always think of just making sure I have everything on my plate. And this was cute, like years and years and years and years ago. My oldest daughter was little, and I always have protein. I always have my vegetables, and I always have fruit, and I always have my complex carb. And always, whenever I make a meal, even if it's like I said, I have a fruit cup. If I have no fruit, throw a fruit cup. And so I made dinner. I had no fruit on hand, no fresh, nothing. And I put the meal down, and my daughter was like, "Is this all we have?" And I'm like, "Oh, like, what do you mean? Is this all we?" And then I'm thinking, like, she's used to having that other component, but she didn't know what she was missing. So I was like a proud mommy moment. But anyway, I just thought that was cute that she was like, "Something, is this all?" But anyway,
yeah.
It's good to balance.
Yeah, if you all have any other questions, great feedback on the kale soup recipe. So we'll definitely have to share that.
I will share that. I will get that. I don't know if I'll send it to you, but or Relish or whomever, but I'll get that.
Great.
It's yummy.
Any other questions for Lisa? That was great. I think I learned a lot for sure. Thank you.
I want to see all these planned menus.
Yes, everyone share their menus. Everything.
Make it easy during the week.
Perfect. If you all have any other questions, you can definitely reach out, and we will definitely get an answer from Lisa if you think of something later.
Okay. Oops.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Lisa. That was great.
You're so very welcome.
I really appreciate your time today. You all can reach out if you have any additional questions for Lisa. And if you want to schedule one-on-one with her, hopefully you let the office know, and we can definitely get you on the list to hopefully get a appointment with her soon. So thank you guys all for attending. This was great. It was fun to be here and be able to learn a little bit for myself too. So uh, this video today will be posted on all of our socials. So if you want to go back and listen or take any screenshots of Lisa's talk today, then you can find it on our Facebook or our YouTube page. And you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram to kind of stay in the loop and hear about Lisa's next month topic. If you have any
Yeah, any
suggestions,
ideas?
yes, definitely. Let us know if you have any ideas for her next month's topic. But Turning Point is very grateful for you all today. Thank you guys for joining and hope you guys have a great weekend.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining.